The rain had started early that morning, soft and uncertain, tapping against the windows of the old house that Emily and Daniel had shared for over 2 decades. It wasn't a loud rain, more of a whisper, a slow and steady rhythm that matched the silence growing between them. Emily sat by the window with her cup of coffee, watching the drops slide down the glass like time itself slipping away. Once, mornings had been filled with laughter, the smell of pancakes, and Daniel sneaking up behind her to wrap his arms around her waist. But that felt like a different life. Now they moved like strangers through the same rooms, polite, distant, careful not to bump into each other's loneliness. Their son Michael had left for college last year, and since then the house had grown heavier, emptier, as if his laughter had been holding up the walls, and without it, everything felt like it was slowly collapsing. That morning, Emily decided to clean the garage, something she hadn't done in years. Maybe keeping busy would quiet the noise in her head. The garage smelled of old paint, dust, and memories. Daniel's tools were scattered across the workbench, neatly disorganized, just like his life. Everything in its place, yet somehow falling apart. She ran her hand across the surface, tracing the marks of old projects, remembering how they used to build things together. A bookshelf when they first moved in, a crib when Michael was born, even a birdhouse one summer when Daniel wanted to teach their boy how to hold a hammer. She smiled faintly, then sighed. Those days had slipped away unnoticed. While she was wiping the shells, something metallic caught her eye, a small glint beneath an old paint can. She knelt down, brushed away the dust, and found a small velvet pouch, faded and soft with age. Inside was a ring, simple, gold, with a small engraving on the inside that read, "Forever hers." Her hands froze. Her heart began to race. It wasn't her ring. It wasn't the one she had given Daniel on their wedding day. For a moment, she just stared at it, her thoughts racing faster than her breath. Questions flooded her mind. Whose ring was this? Why was it hidden? She slipped the pouch back into the drawer quickly, but the image of that ring haunted her all day. That night, Daniel came home late. As usual, he was quieter than normal, distracted, his eyes heavy from the kind of tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. They ate dinner in silence. Emily wanted to ask about the ring, but fear stopped her. Fear of what she might hear. Fear that the love she still clung to might shatter completely if she spoke. Days passed. She found herself studying him in small moments. The way he sipped his coffee, the way his hand lingered on his wedding band, the way he looked out the window when she thought she wasn't watching. Something had changed in him, but she didn't know when or why. Finally, one evening, she couldn't take it anymore. "Daniel," she said softly, her voice trembling, "what does this mean?" She placed the ring on the table. The sound of metal against wood echoed like thunder. Daniel froze. His eyes locked on the ring, and in that instant, something in him broke. He reached out slowly, his hand shaking, and when he finally spoke, his voice cracked like dry wood. "Where did you find this?" Emily could barely whisper. "In your toolbox." Daniel stared at the ring for a long moment, his jaw tightening, his eyes glistening. Then finally, he said, "It was my mother's." Emily blinked, surprised. "Your mother's?" He nodded, tears forming. "She wore it her entire life. She told me that when I found the right woman, the one I'd never want to forget, I should give it to her, but after she passed away, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I kept it hidden, waiting for the right time." Emily's anger dissolved into confusion. "And why didn't you ever tell me?" she asked, her voice softer now. He looked down, his hands trembling. "Because," he said, "I thought I had lost the right moment, and maybe even the right woman." His words hit her like a wave. For years she had felt invisible, unwanted, like a shadow in her own marriage. But hearing him speak now, seeing the regret in his eyes, she realized he hadn't been distant out of indifference, but out of guilt. "Daniel," she whispered, I don't understand." He looked at her, his eyes red. "I was so focused on providing, on being a good husband, that I forgot how to love you. And every day I didn't give you that ring, it became harder. I was waiting for a perfect time, but I wasted years waiting for something that never came." Emily's eyes filled with tears. She reached for his hand, the ring glimmering between them. The years of silence, of small arguments and lost laughter suddenly felt like they were being rewritten by this moment of raw truth. He took the ring, looked at it again, and then, with trembling fingers, placed it in her palm. "It's yours," he said quietly. "It always was." Emily stared at the ring, feeling its weight, not just of gold, but of history, love, and everything unspoken. She slid it on her finger, where it fit perfectly beside her wedding band. For the first time in years, they smiled at each other. A small, fragile smile, but real. That night, they stayed up talking, really talking, about the past, about the things they never said, about their son, about dreams they had let fade. Daniel told her about his mother, how she used to hum while washing dishes, how she believed that love wasn't proven by grand gestures, but by small, everyday sacrifices. Emily listened, her heart softening with every word. She realized how little she had truly known about the man she had spent half her life with. There were so many layers beneath his silence: grief, fear, guilt, love, and all this time she had mistaken it for distance. Around midnight, when Daniel fell asleep on the couch beside her, she went back to the garage. She sat there, under the same dim bulb, staring at the dusty shelves and remembering how their life had begun. The laughter, the long drives, the first time he held her hand, the vows they had made when the world felt simpler. She smiled through her tears. In the morning, she made breakfast, pancakes, just like the old days. Daniel came into the kitchen sleepy and confused, and she looked up and said with a teasing smile, "Don't just stand there, sit before they get cold." For a moment, he just watched her, and then he laughed. It was a sound she hadn't heard in so long that it made her chest tighten. They ate together, talking about ordinary things: work, groceries, bills. But underneath, there was something new, something alive again. Later that week, Daniel took her out to the small park where they first met. The same bench, the same oak tree, only older now. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of gold and forgiveness. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box, and opened it. Inside was a new ring, delicate, simple, engraved with 3 words, "Never forgotten again." Emily gasped softly. "Daniel." He smiled. "This one's from me. For the years we both forgot to remember what mattered." Tears streamed down her face as he slipped it beside the old ring on her finger. They didn't need to say much. The silence between them had changed. It was no longer empty, but full of everything they had once lost and now found again. As years passed, that moment became their quiet anchor. Whenever life got hard, whenever they drifted into silence again, Emily would glance at her hand and remember. Not the pain, not the loneliness, but the rediscovery. The night they found each other again, in a forgotten ring. On their 30th anniversary, their son Michael came home to surprise them. He had grown into a man, with his father's eyes and his mother's stubborn kindness. At dinner, he noticed the 2 rings on her hand and asked, "Mom, why do you wear both?" Emily smiled, her eyes softening. "Because," she said, "because one reminds me of how love begins, and the other reminds me of how it's saved." That night, when everyone had gone to bed, she sat by the window again, the rain returning after months of sun, the same rain, the same rhythm, but this time it didn't sound lonely. She closed her eyes, listening to it dance on the roof, and thought of Daniel's